Good morning. It's Saturday morning here in Houston, Texas. Beautiful day, nice and sunny, about mid to upper 80s or so. Very nice Saturday. Welcome to the Scott Patrick Show. Today we're going to be talking about investing in paradise, resort properties, resort rental properties with the ROI, and explain some of the things that actually go into purchasing a resort property and the numbers, what you need to be able to look at as far as purchasing a resort property for short-term rentals and the illusion of easy money. There's a lot of things out there that make you money, but there aren't very many things that make money easy. There's risks involved in everything, and I want to be able to share with you what some of those risks are and what some of the costs involved in purchasing a resort property for short-term rental. So that you can have the dream of owning a beachfront condo or a beachfront property or home and letting it pay for itself and giving you a good profit cash flow in return, and being able to utilize it at certain times throughout the calendar when it isn't being booked. And there's a difference between owning an investment property. And I suppose the term that you want to be able to use here, we really need to define what an investment property is. So, um, if you have a personal residence that you call home, right, and you buy a second property um, to have as an investment, that's an investment property. Okay, things are different with investment properties. You get more tax benefits with investment properties than what you get with your personal residence. Your personal residence, you get to write off property taxes, you get to write off mortgage interest, and that's about it. With investment properties, you get to write off a lot more. That's why it's an investment property. But there's a difference between having an investment property as a second home that you go to in certain parts of the year, and having an investment property that you utilize for passive income, for cash flow, for business purposes. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about having and dispelling some of the common myths around passive income and resort properties, and the hidden costs and unexpected challenges that rarely are discussed. But I discuss them because you need to be able to know what they are, and you need to be able to understand what they are, so that when you go into doing your due diligence, which we've talked about in other shows, and doing your due diligence, you need to be able to understand if that property is going to work and fit within your um, uh, game plan, within your plan for your business, your why, and what you want to be able to do. So we want to unmask what some of the real costs are involved with resort properties and short-term rentals. So beyond the purchase price of the property, which is a big thing, the purchase price, you have, in some instances, HOA fees, property management fees, and maintenance fees. So let's talk about those three things first. I own two properties in a resort community, and my HOA fees for those resort communities, I have two. I have one HOA fee for the property, and then I have another HOA fee for the resort facilities, the pools, the golf course, the restaurant, everything that goes with the resort community that people are able to utilize. So I have two HOA fees with those resort properties. So these are things that you need to be able to understand and know what the costs are so that you can factor those into if this property is going to be able to work and the numbers work for you. The other is property management. Um, in most cases, you own a investment property on a beach or resort. um, you aren't there all the time. And some laws in some states or in some countries demand that someone is on site to be able to meet customers when they do short-term rentals, which means you have to either have someone on staff in the property to greet those people, or you have to hire a management company to be able to manage the property for you and do everything involved with the management and day-to-day operations of the property. Now, those property management fees can range anywhere from 3 to 20%. And I have a wide range of property management fees. I would say on average, it averages around 9%. I have some that charge 20%, and I get a lot of stuff with that 20%. The cleaning is involved in that 20%, the maintenance, the 24/7 emergency contact and maintenance if needed, if need be, at 11 o'clock at night and the air conditioning goes off. It's the property management team that takes care of those calls and takes care of whatever the issue might be. I've been in some resort properties where at 1 o'clock in the morning, the smoke detectors started going off in one of my properties. And I called the management company and said, "Hey, the smoke detectors are going off. There's no fire or anything like that. Can you get somebody over here? Because, they're going off like every 10, 15 minutes." So, real quick, they were over there. It was a battery issue, and they needed to switch out the batteries, switched out the batteries, and no more problems. But that's what property management does. So you have to be able to factor in whatever that fee is for the property management, because they get, whatever it might be, 5%, 10%, or 20% of whatever the rental of the property is every month. So if you're clearing $10,000 a month on a resort property and they're charging 20%, $2,000 of that $10,000 is going towards the property management. And then you have your HOA fees on top of that, and you have your maintenance. Let's talk about maintenance. The property management company is going to be able to do the maintenance on the property, but guess what? You still have to pay for that maintenance. You have to pay for whatever needs to be repaired. I have a property that I just had to replace the light above the kitchen sink, the track lighting. We thought that it was just lights. It wasn't the lights. We put new lights in it, and it still didn't work. The ballast in it and the light was bad, so that whole track had to be replaced. So I pay, the management company takes care of it, but I'm billed for the cost of what the track light is and the labor to be able to put it in. I've had people put different things in dryers and broke the drum of the dryer, or cracked it, and that had to be replaced. That's covered under the insurance and the damage waiver that I have with insurance, but still, the maintenance property management company takes care of those things for you. I still have to pay for them. They're all a tax write-off because that's care for the property. But you have to be able to factor in what your maintenance is going to be on that property every month. Because just like a regular home, if you own a home, there's maintenance that has to be done to that property. Things wear out, things break, things need replaced. And it's the same with the rental property. Actually, it's a little bit more because it's getting used a lot more. People, you hope, take care of the property and respect it, but there's a lot of people that go through that property all the time. So you need to be able to keep it maintained and keep on top of things. So that's what the property management does. They also do the cleaning of the property. They go in after the guests leave, and they clean the property. They put new sheets, towels. So I pay for the linens and the towels and the supplies, like the washer pods, the Tide pods. I pay for those, toilet paper, paper towels, garbage bags, the little scented shampoos and conditioners and body lotions and things that you would get in a normal hotel. We supply those also, but I have to pay for those as well. So making sure that the kitchen is stocked up, with spices and different things that people need for cooking, just like in a regular home. When you run out of things that you usually use, you go to the store, you get some new ones, and you put it back in. Well, we have to do the same thing with the rental properties that we have for our resorts. We want to make sure that everybody has everything that a normal home would have to be able to cook a meal or to have a barbecue or grill some steaks or something outside the pool. This is one of our resort properties in Grand Caymans in the background here, and it's a beautiful property. But I want to make sure that everybody has everything that they need for that property. So that all goes into the maintenance, the upkeep, the property management, HOA fees. The other thing, as far as unmasking some of the real costs, is vacancy rates. What kind of vacancy are you going to have with that property? This is part of the due diligence. You want to be able to have a rent roll that goes back 2, 3 years, or maybe 4 or 5 years, so you can get a pretty good understanding of what kind of occupancy rates they have currently and how that can be improved. The latest property that I purchased down in Grand Cayman, it has a vacancy of currently, or occupancy rate right now, of around 52% of the 365 days of the year, which is pretty good. That particular property brings in an ROI of about 150 to $200,000 a year. So it's a good property. It makes good money. But how can I raise that occupancy up just a little bit more so I might be able to get 60 or maybe 65 percent? That extra 10, 12, 13% is the equivalent of maybe an extra $100,000 a year, or 75 to $100,000 a year. So what kind of marketing can I do? What kind of costs with marketing, with doing YouTube videos, whatever it might be to boost that up an extra 10 or 12% to get extra profit and extra ROI. So marketing costs are in there to be able to raise those occupancy rates so that your vacancy rate isn't as high. And then you have seasonal things. Every property has seasons. Like down in Port Aransas, where we have two properties, a townhome and a condo, uh, at the Pamela Beach resort down there. The season is basically from March and April, which is spring break. And then it kind of slashes off just a little bit in May. And then the main season is June to Labor Day, end of September, right in there. But June, July, and August are the biggest months of the year. Um, October is the best month in Texas to be able to go down to the beach. It's still very warm. It's in the mid 80s. It gets down into the lower 60s in the evening. Just very comfortable. The humidity isn't quite as bad in the water. Temperature is still very warm, so it's a very nice time to go down to Texas, to Port Aransas, and visit one of our properties. But at the same time, the rents are going down because it's considered off season there in October, November, December, January, February. So you have seasonal rates down in Grand Cayman. We're just starting to get into the season down there. The season in Grand Cayman usually runs anywhere from middle part of November through April is the main season for Grand Cayman. And the biggest money months are December and January. Like the 10th of December through about the 10th or 20th of January. That's the biggest months for Grand Cayman, and that's when most of the money is made for the short-term rental properties down there. So you need to be able to take into consideration the season and how much money you can make during the season. You want to be able to make the most amount of money and have the biggest occupancy rates during your season, because that's when you're going to make the majority of your funding for the property. The rest of the year, that's where you can make up that extra 8 to 12, 15% occupancy rate and try to get those rates up a little bit, because you're already at 100% occupancy during the season. So you want to get those months up. And then your competition, is unmasking some real costs. What's your competition like? Okay, and how are you going to be able to compete with your competition? A lot of people, they go into things and they understand that the property's making this and this is how much daily rate is. My daily rate for one of the properties down in Pomelo Beach in Port Aransas is around $340 a night. With everything, with the booking fee, damage, cleaning and everything. Down in Grand Cayman, it's around 1,500 to 5,000, depending on the property. So what are the other short-term rental properties like? Well, the property management company plays a big role in that, because that's part of the gig for them, is understanding what the other market is and doing dynamic pricing with an algorithm with the booking to be able to adjust the price of the property so that you're getting the best price in compared to the other properties around you. So having a good property management company that's able to do that kind of analysis of other properties and other bookings, and then fold that into yours so you're competitive. You're not the lowest price, you're not the highest price, but you're right there in that middle ground, and you're going to get more of the bookings and that. So those are some of the things that you want to be able to do. As far as crunching the numbers and the real ROI and how that's explained, you want to be able to understand the gross rental income versus the operating net operating income. The gross operating income is the gross that you make from the rental property. You take away all your expenses, your HOA fees, your property management, your maintenance, taxes that you have to pay, and you take all those expenses off, and that's what's giving you your net operating income. That's your net profit, your ROI. You want to be able to calculate your true cash on cash return. How much money did you put into it this month? How much money did you get back after all your expenses? And you have to understand what that return is so that you're able to see where you can make some changes to be able to get that up more, or what your plan is. In one of the last episodes that we did, some people have properties to lose money because they need the tax write-off. Other people, they want to be able to cover the costs of what the operations is and make a cash flow, whatever that cash flow might be. They need to be able to make a certain amount. That's what your level is. Other people, other entities, they just want to be able to make the most money that they can out of the property, and use the depreciation and accelerated depreciation and the expenses as a write-off on the property, but they want to be able to make money. Whatever your plan is, you need to be able to understand the numbers outside of that so that you can keep going and do things the right way and maximize your investment in your resort property and your paradise property. Okay. Some strategies for increasing occupancy and nightly rates. You want to be able to do a nice marketing campaign. You can do that in a number of different ways. You don't have to spend lots of money to be able to do that. You can hire somebody to be able to do it for you. That's going to cost more because they're going to ask for money up front. They're going to ask for the cost to be able to be covered. And if you don't have the time to do it yourself, that's an option for you. I have somebody that does the marketing for me. I pay them as a contractor to be able to do my websites and my marketing for me with banner ads, with videos, with different things along those lines. So those are all marketing tools that drives traffic to your website and to your property and then to booking. We call it a sales funnel. It starts way out here and then it works its way all the way down to where you want them to go so that they book your property or book to a couple of your properties. We just did a mass email to all of our customers, giving them a 10% booking discount from September 23rd to the end of October. Extra 10% on top of, the prices are going down a little bit because it's off season in Texas. But the prices are going up in Grand Cayman, so we're giving a little bit of a discount for people to be able to book there and get their booking in before the seasonal prices come in so that they can get a better deal. These are marketing things that get people to your site, that get people to look at your property and to book your property. It's a sales funnel that's funneling people that have already stayed at our properties and they liked them. They gave great reviews and we want them to come back. So we're giving them a discount to be able to come back and rebook. That's all part of the marketing plan. You want to be able to have the power of renovations and guest experience enhancements. You always want to listen to what your guests are telling you. You want to give them a forum to be able to do that with a review or with a suggestion box. I have a little suggestion box in my properties. If somebody has a suggestion to make the property better, I want to hear those things. I want to understand what people enjoy and what people think would make the property better. Because some people have really good ideas, and I listen to those ideas. So if you come to one of our properties and you leave a suggestion for us, we're going to look at that suggestion. And if it's a good suggestion that works, we're going to try to implement that in, and then we're going to give that person that gave us the suggestion, we're going to give them a free night or two at our property for this suggestion. So we take our customers' comments seriously and we reward them by being able to come to our property and enjoy the property once that has been instituted for them. We want to be able to navigate property management options, self-manage versus professional services. Some people don't want to pay the 20% or 15 or 10%. They'd rather keep that in-house, which I'm all for. I'm all for keeping things in the family, right? And keeping things in-house. Sometimes, it's just not feasible to be able to do that. Like I was saying, you have to have somebody there. So if your property is really close and you can go over there and meet people and you can do the property management and do things yourself, good for you. If you're 5 hours away from your property, makes it a little bit more difficult to be able to do that. That's when you need to have a property management team or company to manage the property. I mean, my Grand Cayman properties, it's a 3-hour flight from Houston to Grand Caymans. It's not something that I can just pop in the jet and go to be able to take care of smoke detectors at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just not feasible to be able to do that. So you have to have a property management company there. One of our properties, the governor's estate property, has a live-in staff that stays there. So I could not have a property management company there, and I could do all the bookings through our website and through our own marketing. and do things a little bit different with that property because I have a staff that's on site to be able to do that. And it's one of the things that we're looking at to be able to see which is better. Are the numbers a little bit better? Is there marketing for the three management companies that we're looking at to be able to do that property? Is their marketing going to be better than our marketing? So these are things that you need to be able to take into effect. And is the property location right for you? Is that what you want to be able to do? Personal finance considerations. When does a resort property make sense for you? Diversification with your investment portfolio, how you want to be able to do that. These are all things that you want to be able to take into consideration. Our plan with Texas Property Development um, is to be able to have resort properties here in Texas. We want to have properties in Grand Cayman. We want to have properties in the Bahamas. We want to have some properties in St. Martin and the Turks, Caicos Islands. In those areas, we also are starting to look at getting some properties down in Manila, in the Philippines, Bangkok, and Singapore. So we want to be able to have properties all over the world, uh, and we're building towards that goal to be able to do that. It takes a lot of different things. It takes some funding to be able to do that. It takes a bit, whatever personal finance. If you're doing this as a second property for you, a second home property, and you're looking to be able to have the costs of the taxes and HOA fees, property management, maintenance, and all that stuff taken care of through the short-term rentals, and then spending 3 or 4 months down in the Grand Caymans or in on the beach somewhere. However that works into your plan uh, is important, and you need to be able to figure out what the finances are going to be for that, so that it's not taken away from what you already have worked hard for. It's adding to it. If anything is taking away from what you've already worked hard to get, you need to seriously take a step back and consider if that's the right property for you. It might be just too expensive. I've had some conversations with friends that have gotten involved with some properties, and they should have walked away from them. They should have walked away from them. And I have said this in other shows. It's hard to say no. It's hard to let a project go that you've invested money into. And that's one of the other things that you really need to be able to consider when we're looking at a property. We're going to drop $5,000 or $10,000 just doing the inspections, doing the appraisal, doing all the due diligence that we have to be able to do, travel to the property, hotels, food, airfare, whatever it might be. These are all costs that just automatically come out when we're looking at a property to be able to purchase. So you have to be able to absorb that because if the numbers don't work and you have to walk away from the property, well, $10,000 just went out the door. And for us as a business, of course, it's a business expense because we're looking at property, so it's 100% tax write-off. And that, but if you do 5 or 6 properties like that, you walk away from all of them, and it's $10,000 a pop. That's $50,000, $60,000. So mm, before we start looking at properties, we have to do due diligence on due diligence, right? We have to do the preliminary things that don't cost money. It's just getting the information before you submit that offer. Because when you submit that offer, that's when that $10,000 just goes out, because that's when you're starting to do the appraisals and um, get the other information that you need, the inspections and everything. Excuse me, we do our inspections a little bit different. And what I mean by that is, some people just get a home inspector and they go on what the home inspector does, but the home inspector always does one thing. They always refer to the professionals. This is just an estimate on what the cost is. This is just an estimate that this could be a problem. So what we have started to do is have a roofer go out and look at the roof. We have a termite inspection done on termites and any kind of damage in that way. We have an electrician go out to look at the electrical system. We have an AC heating company come out and look at the AC and the heating unit. We have um, what's the other one? Inside. We have somebody come in and check the inside, the foundation, any kind of water damage whatsoever. We have somebody come in and check the vent ducts because those vent ducts can have mold in them or different things along those lines that can be a huge issue in trying to remediate if you've gotten into a property and now I have a mold problem. And I can't have guests in there until I take care of the mold problem. So these are professional people that come in and we pay each one of them, but this is what it is. That's thorough due diligence to be able to see if I have an issue with the property and if I have an issue with it needs to be addressed before I take possession of the property. And if it can't be addressed, I walk away because this is what it's going to be to remediate it. It needs to come off the price of the property, or the seller needs to be able to take care of it prior to me getting into the property. Then I'm going to have it inspected again to make sure that it was actually done. Because you could get into somebody that says, well, I took care of it, and they really didn't take care of it. They took care of it half-ass, right? They had somebody that came in and said that they could take care of it, and they really didn't take care of it. It wasn't done. So, that's why we trust, but we verify, right? Trust and verify. So, final thoughts on being able to get into a resort property. You want to be able to understand the real importance of due diligence. I said this in a prior episode. Um, you can't skip out on due diligence. You need to be able to take the time to do things. You can't get rushed into closing on a property before you have had the time to do your due diligence. And what I mean by that is, in most cases, when you submit an offer for a purchase on a property, some real estate agents say, "Well, you have a 10-day option period to be able to do your inspections, and it costs you an extra $100 or $200 in escrow." Well, I'm just here to tell you that I never do 10 days. I do 30 to 45 days option period because there's no way that you're going to get a person out there to do an inspection and to do a proper inspection and to get the cost to be able to remediate anything that needs to be done in 10 days. There's just no way to do it. Can't be pressured into doing a 10-day thing, 30 or 45 days. And if the real estate agent has a problem, if your real estate agent has a problem writing that into an offer, you need to find a new real estate agent. Period. End of story. They're there to work for you and to represent you. And you're the one that dictates what you want in that offer to purchase that property. So if it's 45 days you need to be able to get all the inspections done, to get the reports back, to get the appraisal back, to get everything done that you need to be able to do, um, 45 days is what it is. And if you don't like the things that you see in that 45 days from the inspections that you've done, you can walk away and it only costs you $100, $200 plus the cost of the test, which in my case is 5, 10 grand, right? So you need to be able to have the time to be able to do things the right way. Don't be pressured into a 10 or 15 day option period to be able to get your inspections done. And then you lose the chance to walk away from the property. Contingencies are important. If you're financing the property, you need to have a contingency in your offer to purchase that if the financing doesn't come through, you can walk away and get your earnest money back. Okay. You can have contingencies for anything. And they put those contingencies in usually in an addendum to the offer contract. But I have contingencies for anything that I see that I might need to have extra time for outside of that 45 days, that I can walk away from the property and I can get my earnest money back. Because when you're talking about a property that might be $3, $4, $5 million, you're talking about a escrow earnest funds of anywhere from 100 to $150,000. So if something goes south and you have to walk away from the property, I want to be able to get that $150,000 back and not lose it. And I have contingencies written into the contract that I can do that if something doesn't go right, if financing doesn't go right, if something happens and it takes some of the cash and I don't have enough cash to be able to do the deal, I can walk away from it and I get my money back. I lose what I've put into it, but we don't want things like that to happen. But contingencies are important and option period is important. And you can't let somebody else dictate to you what's normal, because normal doesn't work for us when it comes to buying resort properties. Normal is what I say normal is. I've had back and forths sometimes with buyers that I'm looking to be able to do a development with, like 100 homes, 60 to 100 homes. It's a build to rent development. So they wanted escrow funds up front, of like $100,000 or so. And I don't like to do escrow funds up front. I like to do escrow funds when my option period is over, which is usually 30 to 45 days. So once the option period is over, escrow funds are 3 business days after the end of the, or on or before the uh, end of the option period. So if I know that, everything is good during the option period, I'm going to send the escrow funds to the escrow company, the title company, and send that money in to them when I'm moving on through the option period. Some people just, they want the money up front because they think, for some reason, that um, is normal for them. Well, it's not normal for me, and I'm the one that's buying the property. And if you don't like it, you can say no to the offer, or you can come back with a counter, and say, we want escrow funds within 15 days or 20 days of the 45. Might be able to do that, might not be able to do that. I would have a contingency for it. I might agree to that, but it's under a contingency that I have all the reports back from the inspections so that I can make a determination if I want to be able to continue. That's a contingency. So I'm agreeing to doing the escrow funds, in say 20 days instead of 45, on a contingency that I have all my inspections done and I have the reports back from those that are doing the inspections so that I can make a determination if I want to move forward. Okay. So basically it's about the same thing, but it might be a little bit earlier. So if I can get all the inspections done in that period of time, if I can get the reports back from the people once the inspections are done, and make my decision as to, everything looks good, or negotiate with the seller that these things need to be able to be taken care of, and these are the people I want to be able to have do it. Here are 3 estimates for you. Um, uh, if they're willing to be able to do that, okay, here comes the escrow funds. But if not, if you don't do that work, that's another contingency. If you don't do that work, that you said that you were going to do with one of the three companies that I gave you estimates for, then I get my escrow and I'm walking out. You know, you are in control of that contract. So don't let somebody pressure you or bully you into, well, this is normal. This is how we usually do contracts. No, don't do that. Don't fall for that. A contract is what you want it to be. You can take parts out of the contract that you don't like. I don't like this part of the contract. I'm taking this out, and have you initial it and the seller initial it, and everything's good. You know, there's nothing wrong with being able to do that. But brokers and real estate agents, they don't like that. You know, they don't like to do that because they think that they're going to be liable for something along those lines. How are they going to be liable if the buyer and the seller both agree on it? There you go. That's the contract. So, um, I think it's a wonderful goal for people to be able to have a resort property or a property, an investment property in a beach community or on the beach or wherever you might be, or it could be in the mountains, could be in Colorado in the mountains during ski time, you know, for snow skiing and everything. Wherever that investment property is, you can utilize the principles that we talked about here today to see if that property really works for you. To make sure that you unmask the real costs involved with owning that property, HOA fees, property management, maintenance. You understand what the vacancy rate is and the occupancy rate is and the marketing that's going to go in to that. You have to understand your competition. You have to understand what the other properties in the area are charging per night to be able to um, see where you're at. You know, so you either have to do that work on your own or you have to have somebody be able to do that work for you so that they can give you the information so you can make a proper decision. You want to maximize the investment that you have because it is an investment. That's why it's an investment property. You want to maximize that property. You want to get as many people into that property to hit the numbers that you need to be able to hit. But that goes back to why you want to be able to have that property. Do you want to live in that property for 3 or 4 months out of the year when it's cold in the United States and you go down to Grand Cayman and you stay there November or December through February? Well, you can do that, but you have to understand that you're going to be taking the biggest money uh, season for that property out of play because you're down there by yourself. So that property isn't going to make you as much money because the money that it's going to make is off season. And you're going to take a little bit of a hit that way. So, you know, you need to understand that. So if you were to do that, does that property make sense for you? Are you going to be able to cover all your maintenance costs, all your property management costs, all your HOA fees, if there are HOA fees, and the operational costs involved in that property? Are those costs going to be able to be covered during your off season? And if so, and if it makes a little bit of money and everything, then that property could fit into your plan. If not, well, you need to be able to look for a different property, or you just take the hit. You know, well, you know, I spend 15, $20,000 a year in vacation. You know, but if most of my costs are covered and I have to pay $5,000 a year out of pocket, you know, it's cheaper. It's my own property and it's cheaper to be able to get down there and I'm not paying as much as I normally would. You know, these are things that you need to be able to take into consideration. So, thank you very much for being on the show today, on the Scott Patrick Show. I hope you learned some things about resort properties and how to be able to unmask the cost of the real costs involved in having a resort rental property for short-term rentals. And if you want to be able to get some more information, you can email me. You can click the links on our page or in this video, and you can contact us. And I'm happy to be able to talk with people and to share what I know with you and to guide you along the way. I'm open to be able to be a mentor to someone, to be able to help people to um, make their dreams come true and have an experience of a lifetime. So, thank you very much for being on the show today, and we'll see you next week with another episode of the Scott Patrick Show. Thank you very much. Bye bye.